How's it going, everybody? Gilly Guy here. I hope you've all been healthy and safe. The reason why I'm making this video today is really to just discuss some of the basic safety fundamentals that we should all have on and off the field when handling airsoft rifles. But this can easily be translated right into, anything that shoots a projectile out at a high rate of speed that can cause, death or serious injury. I really treat airsoft rifles the same way that I would treat a real steel rifle. I got my hunting license at a very young age. I was roughly 10 or 11 when I got my hunting license. It's been very much of a natural progression for me going into war games. I like that type of gameplay. I like hunting my friends and whatever. So I got into shooting wrist rockets, slingshots, blowguns, BB guns, and real steel firearms. Still to this day, I remember, I believe it was the first time I probably ever handled a BB gun. I was with my uncle and cousin. My uncle's hunting, me and my cousin were shooting BB guns. Well, I handled that BB gun. It was the first time I ever handled a BB gun as a little kid, and I waved the gun around, waved that muzzle or the tip of the gun around in a fashion that was very unsafe. There were people not very far away from me, basically downrange. So my uncle saw that, really gave me a very stern reprimanding, and from that day forward, it's burned in my brain, but it also, I'm hyper aware of where my gun is always pointing, where the tip of the gun, the muzzle of the gun is always pointing. And what I have here, this is an AK-47 airsoft rifle. It's basically a replica of an AK-47. And that's what airsoft rifles are. They're really just replicas of real steel shooting platforms out there. And that's what really enticed me to transition over from paintball and get into airsoft. In the long run, I really believe airsoft is cheaper. The plastic BBs are cheaper, but it's definitely much more realistic. You can get some different type of tactical clothing, gear, etc. And really, you can, depending on how you want to play airsoft, you can really practice some tactical movements with your friends or team. But it really trains you in how to handle real steel firearms if you've never handled one. From the knowledge that you gain from possibly handling airsoft rifles, that knowledge can translate right over into the real steel shooting realm very easily. So I really just want to mention to have a lot of respect for these. Treat them like a real steel firearm, and a lot less accidents or possible mishaps or injuries may be prevented. Knowing where that muzzle is pointed is also a very, it's a very basic fundamental that we really all should have. Having that tip of the gun facing in a very safe direction on and off the field when you're not, engaging targets downrange or whatever, we should all be hyper aware of that. I have this airsoft rifle attached to a sling. This sling allows me to free up both of my hands. It also allows this airsoft rifle to be hung in a way that's the muzzle's pointed downward, which is a very safe direction. If you're getting into airsoft or even real steel shooting, definitely get a sling for it. You'll be using a lot less energy carrying it in this fashion, where most of the weight is over the core of my body compared to me just holding it in one arm, maybe switching to the other. So I highly recommend getting a sling. I've got one here on my lightweight tactical list, and I also have one here on my Russian Smersh. And then the other thing I'm going to discuss here is trigger control. Your finger should really not be on the trigger at all times. 98% of the time it should be up here on kind of the receiver of your rifle, or if you have a sidearm. This is a airsoft handgun. It's a replica of a 1911, and pretty much my finger is up on the slide or right underneath the slide. It's not on the trigger. It's not on the trigger guard. That's this type of guard around the trigger. It's not in front of that trigger guard either. Your finger can easily slip and end up accidentally hitting that trigger. And some of these shooting platforms have very sensitive triggers to where that can go off. I know I've seen videos where there are, tournament or people at the target shooting range, and they're trying to do a timed event, and they're going through so quick, but they're missing their basic fundamentals, and their fingers going right onto the trigger. Maybe their fingers on the trigger guard and it slips off, but they're having an accidental misfire while the gun is still either in the holster or as they're pulling it out of their holster. Luckily for them, they either just shoot the ground or, hopefully just, they end up shooting their own leg and not somebody around them. If you're going to do something stupid, hopefully you're the only person who is affected by your stupidity and not anybody else around you. The other thing that I kind of want to mention too, here's the magazine I'm going to take out of the gun. The BBs fit right into there. This is an empty magazine. This gun is an AEG, which stands for automatic electric gun. This gun basically runs on RC car type batteries. I don't have a battery in there, and I don't have any I don't have any BBs in this magazine. Very safe at the moment, but I want to show you, if you're at the field, a lot of times when a game ends, you're going to hear a buzzer or the refs or the marshals or whatever out there yelling that the game is over to remove the magazine, and sometimes fields require you to put on a barrel sleeve or a barrel condom over the muzzle to prevent an accidental BB from shooting out. But a lot of times these refs or marshals don't mention to clear the gun. After you've taken the magazine out of your gun, there can still be a BB within the chamber of your airsoft rifle. So it's a very good practice that while you're still on the field to shoot your airsoft rifle, a couple different times to make sure that there is no BB still in the chamber of the gun. So that's another very safe practice. So again, if you take anything away from this video, please handle these with the same respect as a real steel firearm. Always know where your muzzle is pointing, the tip of your gun. Always know where that's pointing. I highly recommend just having it pointed downwards. If something goes, misfire happens, that round is just going right pretty much into the dirt, or maybe you're possibly shooting your own foot. But, if you have your rifle in an upward fashion, if a projectile comes out, it can, will be coming back down. And, who knows, if it's a real steel, if it's a real bullet, you could end up accidentally shooting somebody that way. Very slim chances, but you never know. The other thing too, I'm not a big fan of people holding their rifles like this. I have no problem with this so long as there's nobody on the other, downrange of where my gun is firing. A lot of people, when they have their guns like this, they're going to kind of move around, and for me, I don't like it. That's why I have a sling. It allows my gun to just hang from my body in a very safe direction. So please, respect for the gun, muzzle awareness, trigger control. Have your finger up on the receiver of the gun or up near the slide, not on the trigger. This is a no-no, not on the trigger guard. Those are unsafe practices. Up and over the trigger on the actual receiver or pretty much on the slide of a handgun. Very safe, only takes a split second to go from pretty much this position onto the trigger. And when you're done shooting your airsoft gun and you've taken the magazine out, shoot your airsoft rifle at least 2 to 3 more times just to make sure that there isn't another BB still within the chamber of that airsoft rifle or handgun. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment line. And if you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and stay healthy, stay safe. Ghillie Guy is out, and I will see you on the battlefield.